The evening edition of the America East Three-Pillar Academy. We're excited to have you join us this evening. The topic of the night is discussing the transition out of sport after graduation. I understand that sometimes it's not on everybody's forefront, but we are going to give you some tips this evening on how to make that a smooth transition. So you'll hear from two different people on two different perspectives. Our first speaker is Eric Wood. He's the Associate AD at the University of Central Florida. And prior to that, he was at Arkansas and bounced around and even did a stint at the NCAA. And additionally, we have our very own America East Nation, America East SAC chair, Justin Berger, who played lacrosse at the University at Albany. And we're excited to have you both join us this evening. All of you tuning in, if you care to participate via asking questions, feel free to tweet at America East using the hashtag 3P Academy. So Eric, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you all giving me this opportunity to join in on the conversation. Hello to our student athletes who are tuning in. Hello to the administrators who are tuning in, coaches. Just happy to participate in this group and at the end of the day contribute to an excellent student athlete experience. And then specifically tonight, just talking a little bit about the transition from being a student athlete into the real world, or I like to call it the working world, because what you're experiencing right now is close to being real with your 12 and 14-hour days. And so for our administrators who joined on the call, my hope is that the programming that you're doing now for our student athletes are applicable to where they are in their development. And I'll preface the remainder of my comments with I've spent time on a Division II campus. I've been in a Power 5. I've been outside the Power 5. So I hope that some of the things that I'm sharing today are applicable to whether you're a one-person show or you have 4 people in your shop. So wanted to share that. Some of the programs that exist on campus, and I met with one of our junior student athletes just prior to engaging in this conversation, and just ask the question, why are these programs so hard for you guys to get to if they're not mandatory? And really at the end of the day, we know the story. Justin will probably chime in on some of that later as a recent student athlete, but you have long days. These programs are mandatory. You think you can hold off as long as you can on doing them, but they're really, really important. So I thought I'd take the next couple of minutes to just chime in on some of the programs, whether they're sponsored or offered on main campus or they're coming out of your athletic department. Just a few that I suggest as a former student athlete myself that you participate in. I was a football student athlete at Sacred Heart University and went on to Clemson for graduate school. And I've been in this business 16 years. And so here's a few things that I thought I would share with our transitioning student athletes as they transition out into the real world. Number one, any type of leadership programs, and I'm starting there specifically. I know we're talking about professional preparation, but I feel like leadership programs, again, whether they're offered on campus or in your athletic department, they do. But here's 3 things that I know are valuable as you pursue your profession. Number one, they increase self-awareness. And I believe that is probably one of the most crucial points as you transition into the real world. Who are you? How do you lead? What do you value? And that impacts the major you select and the profession you choose to pursue. So I'll get into the professional programs, but the 3 things I think leadership programming do, and you can get into this as soon as possible. They increase self-awareness. They allow you to experience some values clarification. What are those 3 to 5 things that are most important to you personally, and what you're looking for in your new job, okay, as you transition and you prepare out. And then the 3rd thing is branding. So typically in your leadership programming, you're going to have the opportunity to increase your awareness, identify what you value, and then see yourself as an organization and how you brand yourself. So I suggest that that you participate in some type of leadership programming. Okay, community service. Oftentimes this gets brushed off because your coaches may force you to do it. Administrators say you have to get an X number of hours by the end of the academic year. I say community service is important in your professional prep because it's there that you learn impact. It's there that you get to do something for others, and you start to realize, you know, what it is that makes you tick. What's your why, and why you exist on this earth. So obviously there are different service opportunities, but what I do know is that our student athletes, they may leave that job that they secure in that first year out of school because there's no impact. And they were excited to land something. They can tell their parents they felt successful because they landed a job. But within that first 6 months to a year, they're giving us a call back saying, hey, I want to do what you do. Well, what do I need to do what you do? Or how do I get into something else where I can have impact? Okay. So I'm starting off with leadership and community service programs as the two things that I suggest that you get involved in, even before we even talk about professional preparation and workshops. Okay. Moving right along, I suggest that if your institution offers any kind of professional dress, they're called different things at different schools, but any type of dress for success programs, it is vitally important that we understand as student athletes and former student athletes that you understand the expectations for dress in the workplace you're about to enter. You need to find that out prior to securing that first position. So I would say dress for success programs. After that, I would say any type of resume slams or resume workshops. Those sound boring as all get out, but you need to, it's crucial to understanding industry standards, okay? In these first two programmings, dress for success and resume workshop, the two things that I hear most when participating or facilitating those workshops are student athletes wanting to show their uniqueness. And those workshops will typically help you understand industry standard and where you have an opportunity to show your uniqueness. Okay, so I think those are very important, and they're important to do early. I'll say networking events. One of I don't know, one of the things that surprised me the most when putting on a networking event was that student athletes play in front of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, and you get them in a room with people who are looking to employ you, and they huddle up and they stay amongst each other because that's an area that they're not as confident in. They haven't practiced their elevator speech. They haven't practiced communicating where they want to be in a couple of years, or how to even just engage someone who's looking to hire student athletes for all the intangibles that student athletes possess. And so I would say the more networking events you can attend and participate in, the more natural, the more comfortable you can become. And then you go in there and you can engage with professionals that are looking to hire and set yourself apart from other students. I would say, I know at Arkansas during my time there, we had job searching strategies, right? We were able, some students, you know, looking for a teaching job might be different than a sports executive job or even a business job, okay? Now, so if there are any type of job searching strategies within the college of your major, within the athletic department, or again, just anywhere on campus, I would suggest that. Tonight, ironically, we're doing a business etiquette session here at UCF. So we're just talking about what's appropriate behavior in the workplace, right? There's locker room behavior, there's bus trip behavior. Some of your coaches are more strict with what that looks like on travel and those type of things. But business etiquette, our student athletes at UCF here are engaging in that as we speak, and we're just talking about it's all inclusive. It's dress, it's emails, it's phone conversations, it's how to engage colleagues and coworkers of the same sex, opposite sex. It's just some of those things that allow you to transition into your workplace a whole lot smoother because it's absolutely different than the locker room. We're also probably going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn as a professional network versus our social media like Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat. I can't guarantee it, but I don't know if the supervisors will be Snapchatting with you. So just making sure that we understand that LinkedIn is not a place for social. Well, I just say generally speaking, not a place for social interactions as much as it is professional interaction. Okay, 3 more, and then I'll bow out, at least from just some of the programs that I'm hoping that you will participate in as juniors and seniors. But any type of interviewing strategies. Again, during my time at Arkansas, you know what? We decided to videotape our practice interviews. Most student athletes are used to that. You have film session at some point. Your coaches are talking about technique. And so we decided to create a video session with that, so we can record and hear how many times you've said and yeah and twirled your hair or did all of those things, right? I've learned as a former student athlete that the film doesn't lie. So, anytime you can participate in an interview strategy, mock interviews, those are always very important. And then I'll end with any type of career expo, career fairs. Again, some colleges, I know a lot of the colleges of businesses, they have great relationships, and so they do that, or the healthcare industry. So I would suggest attending a career fair, having your resumes, all of those things that you have practiced. I mentioned Dress for Success, resume workshop, job searching, networking practice, all of those things. I would suggest you get, some or all of those workshops before going to your career fair if you can help it. All right, sometimes they're just offered really early in your career and you jump right into the fire. But the more strategies, the more workshops you participate in, the more confident you are when you approach those. And that can be the difference maker as you when you engage with these professionals. The last piece is not career related, but I'll call it athletic transitions. Okay, I'm finding that our GAs and our interns, again, 16 years in the business, one of the main things that they struggle with during their transition is this sort of, you had this built-in network as a student. You had somebody at home to watch the game with. You had a teammate to go get some wings with. You had a study group. You had somebody to get on social media with. And sometimes you've moved to a different city. You moved to a different state. Maybe all of your colleagues are married with children and you're the young one. And so they can't quite hang out like you hang out. And so if there are any, I believe Nebraska does a really good job with this. I know we were getting it at Arkansas prior to my departure there, but anything related to athletic transitions, because there's an emotional, a mental, and a physical transition to no longer being a student athlete. So jump on that, even if it's not mandatory, even if you don't get life skills points for your team by participating in these things. I would say make sure you jump on that and just sort of increase the ability to be successful when you transition. So I'm going to stop there, Jessica, and just sort of some opening comments about transitioning from being a student athlete into the work world.
Yeah, Eric, really some great tips, and we'll dive into a little bit more of those here coming up. And don't forget, anybody who wants to chime in on Twitter and give these guys some tough questions, feel free at America East using the hashtag 3P Academy. So Justin, you just finished up starting grad school, had a total career change, mindset about what you thought you wanted to do and now what you are planning on doing. So tell us a little bit about your experiences and what are some things that helped you or you wish you would have started earlier.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I'm really excited to be here, and so thank you to you and Eric and everybody at the America East for having me on tonight. I will talk about my experience a little bit, some of the things that I wish I had done differently, some of the things I think I did well. I'll also talk about some of the things that I learned from my leadership experiences and that kind of thing. But first, I have to start by echoing a lot of what Eric said. I want to echo the leadership and the community service. I think both of those are incredibly important when you're moving forward. Right now, right behind us, actually, we're having a SAC meeting. And for anybody who doesn't know what SAC is, if there's any freshmen or sophomores on here, SAC stands for Student Athlete Advisory Committee, which is a group on every single campus that I got really involved in. And that was kind of my main leadership springboard to every other opportunity that I've gotten. I want to echo Eric's point about resume workshops. That was one of my big things that I wish I'd done differently. I think it's probably better for all freshmen, sophomores to make one, even if it's empty, even if you've done nothing or your only work experience is mowing lawns over the summer, and then be able to add to it as you gain experience than it is as a senior having to look back. So I know right now all of my old teammates, I'm actually, just so people know where I am, I'm a grad assistant still now at Albany in academic support for our student athletes. So all of my old teammates, all the seniors just had actually last week a resume workshop. And so they were all kind of scrambling all at once, trying to put everything together. A lot of them were sitting right here asking for help. And so for all of them, it would have been a lot easier if 4 years ago they'd set one up and then filled in from there. So don't be panicked about making one. Don't be panicked if it's empty. Just set it up, and that'll make your life easier down the road. And then the one other thing that I wanted to echo about what Eric said, he talked about the networking events and how important they are, and how you need to go up and talk to people that are there. And that's the thing I want to talk about. My experience has always been at networking events, that the best opportunity for networking is staying after the actual event. So the whole event is with people talking, like the career panel we have here at Albany. It's a bunch of folks standing at the front of the room talking about their careers and offering tips kind of like this. But the best connections you're going to make are the folks that are willing to stay after. And usually the people that are there are willing to give their time. They wouldn't be there if they weren't interested in giving their time. So if you're willing to stand there for an extra 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, half hour, the last person there is the person that the professional is going to remember when they leave the room. So you might as well be the last person there if it's something you're interested in and committed to. So with that, I'll move on to some of the things that I'd thought about before we got on here, some of the things I wanted to talk about. So when you're moving into a career, it's the big joke right now is how every entry-level job needs 5 years of experience. So how in the world can you possibly get any experience if you can't get the entry-level job? So the thing that we talk about a lot now is trying to get internships. And that's a really big hot button issue because a lot of student athletes say we don't have enough time to do it. And so hopefully moving forward, we'll have some new time demands rules in place that'll give athletes more time to do things like that. But I know I personally was able to do a couple summer internships because for lacrosse, we didn't have to be here over the summer. We would start at the beginning of September and end when our season ends in May. And so for those 3 months, I was able to work and get experience that goes on my resume. The other big experience that I have that helped me out now was working in the athletic department. I would work the sporting events. I would do statistics with the SID staff. And so I'd go to all the football games, all the basketball games, meet everybody there, talk to everybody there. And the nice thing I thought about working with them is that the people in the athletic department understand how hectic our lives are, and they're willing to work with your schedule, and they understand, hey, I can't make this Wednesday game because I have practice or I have this test or so be it. The other thing is that if you find work up on campus, those people are usually very understanding of I shouldn't say always, but a lot of those people up on campus are understanding of how hectic our lives are, maybe more so than if you went and found work out in the real world, not on campus. And the last point I wanted to make was just explore your community, explore what's around you. All of our campuses have lots of nonprofits around them, lots of people that need help. I know here in Albany, we have like the state legislature. So there's people that are interested in doing that. Never count yourself out from any opportunity because you're a student athlete. Go look, go search. Maybe you can't do it. Maybe the job requires too many hours, but if you don't look, you'll never know, and you'll never know what could have been. So that's what I wanted to talk about, experience. The networking points are also incredibly important. My best networking always was just talking to the people around me, talking to my teammates, talking to the other athletes in the department, seeing what their interests are, and what they like to do, talking to the athletic staff, like I said. And then I always thought it was useful, and I think I wish I'd done it more, but going and talking to professors in office hours, I think is an excellent networking tool, especially if they're in a field you're interested in, business or one of the sciences. They're there waiting to talk to students. The stereotype of the idea that student athletes don't want to go talk to them. If you go and make an effort and show them that you're interested, I think they'll be willing to help you. I joined a club. I was in a club called the Albany Sports Business Organization, which is just kind of something that was outside of my comfort zone. I made a lot of new friends, people up on campus I never would have met before. And I was talking with Lori Friel, who is our assistant athletic director for academics here, and she was telling me that one of the pieces of advice she tries to give everybody is just go do one thing outside of your comfort zone. Go to something on campus you wouldn't have done. Go join a club, something you would have done, but something that makes you uncomfortable. And then let's see, what else? Make it rather talk that one up. Oh, I should go back to the resume thing. This is actually really important. But actually, this will all tie in. So when you're making your resume, and then also when you're going on your interviews, I think one of the most important things is that student athlete, that can kind of be your brand. I think it's a selling point more than it's a hindrance. A lot of young people our age haven't committed to anything like we have for 4 years. So you can talk about all of the skills and play them up on your resume, play them up when you go to interviews. We're calm under pressure, we're coachable, but we're independently and goal motivated. Everything that you need as an athlete, you can kind of transition to the work world. Some of the things I think I wish I'd done differently. The interviewing skills is something I definitely didn't have. I still don't have as good of interviewing skills as I need to have. So anytime you can find an interviewing workshop, what I learned, I went on a couple interviews last year, and they were really difficult for me, is that an interview setting is not a normal conversation. It's kind of a question and answer. And if you're not prepared for they're not normal questions. It's not how was dinner last night? It's, you know, where do you see yourself in 20 years? And it's these questions that if you haven't thought about before and they put you on the spot, it's tough. It's unlike any other interaction you have. I at least feel a couple interviews I was in, I was totally unprepared for them. And so, you know, interviews are good experience for more interviews, but mock interviews would be good experience for your first interview. And so I think that's pretty much all I have prepared. I guess the last thing I should talk about is the actual transition, which I am going through right now. And it is tough, like Eric talked about. It's certainly a lifestyle change. I think the lack of physical activity is understated, and it's incredible. We don't have, I'm not working out for 2.5 hours every day. So I have a ton of energy. And if I don't plan the workout in the morning, I often find that it's 7 o'clock at night and I didn't work out. And then I'm frustrated that I didn't work out, because it's just such a part of our lives. Every single day we exercise so much. Competitive outlets is another one. I still live with some of my old buddies, so I don't have all of the social cutoff yet, so I can't talk to that one so much, but we talk all the time. We play darts every night, and they're just these intense, heated games because we just need some competitive outlet. We need something where I can say, I beat you today. Me and my roommate Derek, we play racquetball twice a week now, and there's these like just bloodbaths. I beat him the other day and he stormed out and wouldn't talk to me, and it's just because we don't really have this competitive outlet anymore, so we take everything way too seriously. But hopefully that wears off soon. And then the last one is that our friends that aren't here, I think it's different, but you actually have to, this might be obvious to everybody, but like making an effort to stay in touch with your teammates and your friends is different, because you don't see all of your teammates in all hours a day. So it's making an effort to actually call people and see how they're doing, and all the conversations that you're used to having. Now it's different now. We talk about it. We actually have to like, you put time into making sure you maintain those relationships you made, because they're the most important relationships a lot of us have made to this point in our lives. So that's pretty much all I have prepared. Willing to talk about anything, and maybe we have any questions set up. I don't know, but that was it.
Great, thank you. We do have a question from Twitter land. Eric, you talked about LinkedIn and how to kind of build your social brand. Is there any other platforms that you would recommend using for personal branding for jobs?
Well, first of all, I mean, LinkedIn's not paying me, but I will endorse that. While I know that other people use it and they post articles related to their respective industries, I will absolutely confirm that every time I have an opening, I go in and particularly in my area, I type in academic advisors, and all those people that I've connected with, whether it was at a N4A conference or a life skills conference, or I've connected with at some point in my professional walk, it reminds me, I get all these people that I'm like, oh yes, they were outstanding. They were sharp, and it sort of increases my reach. So I definitely use it on there. Other than that, other networks, you know what? I can't speak to any other networks right now. I mean, please know that we do follow up on Twitter and on Instagram just as best we can. I hate to sound creepy, but I want to know who we're hiring. So be careful on those. I know you're probably sick of hearing those reminders, but other professional networks, really, honestly, I'm looking at LinkedIn, and then I'm relying on my colleagues and professional conferences to connect with folks. I can't think of anything else. Can you?
Well, Eric, ask you, have you ever been, I know you do a lot of hiring these days, have you ever been in a situation where your committee decided to no longer pursue maybe one of your top candidates based on what they found on social media?
Absolutely. And so because sometimes I get in, if we have 90 to 100 people for one advisor position, I'm going to have the committee help me chop that down, and that they'll absolutely do that. They'll type in their name, and some of us use different usernames, but if we find it, yeah, I mean, they're taking a look at it. And Facebook, it's just, people are easy to find these days, and it's not judgmental. It's just, if you didn't take the time to manage that, then I'm going to be focusing on correcting the behavior and addressing the business etiquette we mentioned earlier. I'm going to spend more time doing that than teaching you our industry, so yes, absolutely.
Yeah, great advice. Justin, did you want something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say on the idea about the LinkedIn, it's the exact same as the resume, at least for me, is that it's good to have one early. I know now all of my old teammates are adding me, but I've had one for a few years, and it's again, it's like Eric said, it's just good to collect's not the right word, but add more and more contacts as you go. They're always there, and they're always a resource for you, and it doesn't hurt. So the earlier you make one, the earlier you start adding things. It's just like the resume. It just builds and builds and grows and grows. And there's no harm. Everybody knows you're a freshman or sophomore. There's no harm in having one that doesn't have a lot on there. It shows initiative, and it shows a good start. And so definitely make one tonight. I mean, make one right away. Go ahead. There's no harm in having one, and it can only help you moving forward.
Now, who should I add to my LinkedIn? Should I just add all my teammates, or should I be strategic about who I'm sharing with and what that looks like? Because I could take my whole Facebook page and dump all my friends from Facebook right into my LinkedIn. Is that going to help me?
I think Eric could speak to that more than I. I tend to just try to only add people that I've met before, because I've caught that a lot of people will add me that I don't know. Honestly, my LinkedIn strategy is probably not the best. I just have one for now, and I haven't had to use it yet so much. I've talked to some people on there, but it hasn't been a job tool for me yet. I think as long as you add professional contacts, people that you met professionally, or people that you respect, certainly people in your field that are older, wiser, more experienced, whether you know them or not, probably would be people to help, people that would be helpful to add. But I'm sure Eric can speak more to LinkedIn strategy than I can.
Sure. My LinkedIn strategy, and again, this is just my personal preference, but I'm going to generally accept anybody that has a role within intercollegiate athletics. And then I'm very selective on the professional athletics. And so for me, I would think, I don't know if any administrators can benefit from it, but for example, I oversaw academics and student athlete development at Arkansas. And then here I'm overseeing our strength and conditioning, which we call sports performance. And so now, in the event that I have openings in that world for the last 10 years or so, I've been accepting LinkedIn connections or making connections with professionals in that world. And so when opportunities come up, again, outside of using our colleagues, so I'll refer to LinkedIn. So just because they're not in academics or student athlete development, student services somewhere, if you're within intercollegiate athletics, I'm generally going to accept you or make the connection myself for future opportunities. Either way, to be honest with you, whether I'm looking at some point or I'm looking to fill positions or make connections with others. So my strategy is, if you're within college athletics, I'm accepting you. And then professional athletics, you kind of get these random ones sometimes, but I'll vet those out as best I can.
Yeah, cool. Great. So both of you talked about networking and putting yourself out there, and that can be really overwhelming when I don't know somebody, and here I have to go and talk with them, and what do I say, and what do I do, and what does that look like? Eric, you mentioned an elevator speech. So I'm going to go out on a limb and think that I can tie in my elevator speech to my introduction. Can you tell us a little bit more about what an elevator speech is and how that can help prepare us for that initial meeting with somebody that you really want to meet, but you have no idea where to start?
Right. So most people freeze up on that. That usually it's the initiation that is what makes our student athletes freeze at these events. And so one of the programs that we instituted is called Fast Track, and bear with me here, it was sort of like speed dating, right? And so it was that you could move from employer to employer that had your best interests in mind, but it gave you the opportunity to practice that elevator speech. And to tell someone, within a minute or two, where it is that you're trying to go, so that they have an idea of whether their place of employment is for you, or even if it's not, how can they help you and connect you to someone else. And so just being able to communicate that Eric Wood, currently the Senior Associate Athletic Director at UCF, my goal is to become an athletic director so that I can impact student athletes and empower them to be their best person. I mean, if you can't say that, whatever that is for you, then you're going to be rambling on and have a hard time engaging with that professional. So we've got to practice that. And administrators, I'm hoping that you have some type of program that forces them to do that and not get too comfortable at each station, because not the student athletes who are okay with the engaging part, they'll also get really comfortable and stay with that same employer for 20 minutes because they find a comfort zone, and that defeats the purpose as well.
Great, thanks. Justin, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think those are all really good points. The one thing that I had thought of while we were just sitting here is one thing I think I wanted to speak to about my experience that I wish I'd done differently. Like you mentioned in the introduction, I actually kind of took a career left turn right here just after I graduated, actually. And so I had spent my entire undergraduate career thinking that I was going to go into the medical field, and I'm obviously not doing that anymore. And so one thing I wish I had done differently is prepared myself, or at least explored other opportunities, other fields, other disciplines, just not kind of pigeonholed myself into one thing. I guess I was kind of preparing myself for a career in college athletics with all of the athletic things I was doing, the SAC things I was doing, the NCAA meetings, the committee meetings here, all of, working at all the events and whatnot, without even really knowing it. But I never consciously put any time into it. And so I wish I'd explored what else was out there for me, what else I could possibly have done if I hadn't been doing all of those things. And I decided, like I did, that I didn't want to get into medicine anymore. I think I probably would have found myself in quite a predicament. I got lucky that I had been doing all of those things really and loved it so much, and found it easy to kind of say, no, this is really what I ought to be doing. This is what my passion is. But if I had, been following a path and then realized this isn't really the path for me, without that backup plan, I don't want to call it a backup plan, but that side plan, I think I would have been in a world of hurt. And so I wish I had done that differently, at least put thought into it during my undergrad, so that it wouldn't have been it was about a week of panic where I was like, oh my God, like there's no way I want to do this anymore. What do I do? And I was like, of course I know what to do. But I could have saved myself that week of intense stress if I had explored other options, or at least, as it turned out, put thought into maybe a career in athletic administration is the way for me to go.
Sure. So Justin, what does that look like? You talk about exploring other options. Where do I even begin to explore those options? Like, okay, I've decided what I don't want to do. Now what?
Yeah, that's a tremendous question. I think it's just it's everything we've talked about, right? It's all the networking connections you make. It's the career fairs you go to. It's the career panels that you have. There's so many different fields. There's so many different things you can do. I know when we have alumni back onto campus, we as a lacrosse team would have alumni connecting events where we would go and meet with, UAlbany lacrosse alumni and fans. And it was just talking to people there and, hey, I'm in, company law, and I'm in financial advising, and I'm in, home decorating, and I'm in this and I'm in that. And it's just who you meet. And it's more, to me, it's always been more about the people you meet, and the people drive have always driven my interests, and I've always just loved the competitive nature of athletic departments. So it was easy to want to stay around these kind of people and doing this more so. That's always for me been what's driven my passion is the people. And so it's the people you meet, and what do they say? It's not the grades you make, but the hands you shake. It's the people you get to know. That I think that would be my best advice. All of those networking events are what would lead you to knowing what field maybe would interest you.
So Jessica, you there? Okay. So, you know, here's the deal. So again, even in prepping for this call and asking one of our student athletes, you make the time for the things that are important to you. Okay. At the end of the day, I asked her, are you appreciative that we put these programs on? And she said, absolutely. But by 6 o'clock, I've been at it for 12 hours. If it's Thursday night, I want to get home and watch Scandal. And just decompress and take a shower and relax, or I get study hall till 7, 8 o'clock, and I get that. But I sort of view it this way. So again, as a former football student athlete, practice began at 7 a.m. Somehow there was pre-practice at 6:45. Okay, and I know we can all relate to something additional that our position coach or our head coach would do for us. But I share that because from 6:45 to 7, all we did was footwork. I played cornerback. All we did was technique and footwork. Why? So that come game time, come practice, we weren't even thinking about it. It was a part of who we were, as a reaction. We weren't looking down at our feet. We were focused ahead, right? That was my best attempt at just sort of relating to how these programs work. The more practice when we don't want to do it, right? Getting it there at 6:45 meant you cut into my sleep some more. So do these workshops. They cut into some of that time. But what they allow us to do is they just increase our self-awareness. They increase our confidence. So we have to make time to do it. Every time we speak, every time we participate in a networking event, every time we get in an organization as a SAC officer, we're auditioning for a job. We're auditioning for leadership opportunities. And so, if you think about your athletic world, student athletes, you make time because you want to be great. You don't want to get embarrassed when you walk out there. And so this is the prep. This is the stuff that allows you to increase your confidence when you're engaging with professionals.
Absolutely. So I'm a senior. I'm like sweating bullets right now because you guys have said I need to do leadership. I need to do community service. I've trained all summer. I haven't worked. Oh my gosh, I'm graduating. Like, what is your advice at this point in their career when they like, help me graduate, help me find a job. Mom and dad won't take me back in.
To me, it's simple. I know a lot of my teammates right now are finding themselves in that exact position. And my advice to any senior right now would just be, start thinking about it. That's the easiest thing to do, right? Is to not wait until the day you graduate to be like, now what? Is to be thinking about it now. I know a lot of the guys that I graduated with, I wish that they, thought about that then. It's so simple, right? Start thinking about it. There's people out there that want to help. Go find those people. It's, don't make it a bigger deal than it has to be. And just, start thinking about it now instead of later. It's, that simple, at least to me.
That's good stuff, Justin. Just start. But my advice is, if you are sweating bullets, right, here at UCF, it is week 6 of a 16-week fall semester, senior year. If you haven't thought about this at this point, I'm saying you've encountered somebody where in your mind you've said, I think I want to do that job. Okay. And so my mantra is begin with the end in mind, right? I've obviously stolen that. Is that a Coveyism? But I've stolen it. But essentially begin with the end in mind. Who's doing the job that you currently want? You call them up. It may be too late to change your major at that point. You're a senior, but you can find out how to get in, how to intern, how to volunteer, how to job shadow. And to Justin's point, your schedules are so crazy, and maybe some of us rely on that too much, and we've never done an internship. But if it's senior year and you're panicking, begin with the end in mind. You've encountered somebody, whether it was your summer camp, it was an advisor, athletic trainer, it was one of the panelists that came for the career event, it was somebody across campus, somebody you participate, that works at your parents' occupation. get in touch with them. There are not many people that when they hear from a young student athlete will turn down the opportunity to say, hey, here's what I think you need to do. So it's never too late, but find that person and pick their brain and just get started. Put one foot in front of the other and get started.
Sounds like really great advice. So Eric, question just came through on Twitter for you. What's the one thing you learned as a student athlete that still helps you today professionally?
I have that's a great question. I was just having this conversation, so I'm not making this up at all. There's nothing like training camp. So I played football, and the reason I reference that is because there are times throughout the year where things just get hectic. If you do life skills work and it's orientation time or programming time, there are those days before the event, during the event, and after where you're just all in all the time. And I view just being able to compartmentalize these events and not get completely stressed out, right? Being able to work with others that have a completely different leadership style, and they either cause me stress or I'm stressing them out. But I just had this conversation that being a former student athlete during the stressful times, I just remember saying, I've got to get through this time period, and I'm going to put my head down, suck it up, not complain, and get it done. And I reference that quite often. I currently have 3 children. I'm working on a doctorate. I have a 50-hour-a-week job, and I often refer back to my student athlete time where you just all day you're going. And so I hope that answers the question, but just those intense periods, particularly fall camp for me, I reference that if I can get through that, I can get through anything.
Great. I don't know what you mean about 50-hour work weeks, Eric. I mean, 8 o'clock on a Monday, right?
That's right. That's right. I was going to say 60, but just in case my boss is listening, man.
Fair enough. Well, before we wrap up tonight, I want to thank both of you for being taking time out of your Monday night. I know we probably cut in some football time here, but we really appreciate this insight that you've shared about transitioning and for our student athletes and looking beyond the classroom. I know it can be daunting, and Eric, you touched about the mental, physical, and emotional side of stepping away and hanging up those cleats for the last time. It can, really set you in a whirlwind when you're least expecting. So thank you very much for providing some advice and some insight. For all you upcoming graduates, the America East has started an alumni network, and it's a new initiative from the conference office that is aimed at helping all former America East student athletes keep in touch after graduation. So we talked about being attentive with your communication with your teammates. So this is a great way. The network will provide networking opportunities. Again, wow, this is like right synced up to what we just talked about, professional development and job postings for all America East alums. So connect with the group on, wait for it, LinkedIn, and by searching for the America East Alumni Network. So thank you again, Eric and Justin, and everybody out there in America East Nation and all those who want to be in the America East Nation. We appreciate your audience tonight, and have a good week, everyone. So long.
Good night.